Hello and welcome to the Soul Shaking Love podcast. I'm your host, Valerie Green from CoachValerieGreen.com. And this podcast is meant to bring you a mind, body, and spirit connection to create that soul shaking love, both with yourself and your soulmate. And so today I am very excited to bring you my guest, Lottie Cooper. Hello, Lottie.
Hi, Valerie. Good to see you.
It's so exciting because we're going to talk about the topic of holiday stress. And this is so important because everybody that I talked to this year, I don't know about you, Lottie, but everybody that I talked to, I know that this episode is going live right before Thanksgiving. And my friends are just like, oh no, I'm worried about going home to see my family because there's going to be all this fighting about politics or about the economy. And, you know, all my old patterns are going to come up, or I'm going to do emotional eating and gain all this weight, right? Like so many people are telling me that they're going to be stressed out. Is that what you're hearing too?
Yeah, and a lot of fear coming up. It's like there's all this love and at the same time the same amount of fear. So it's like today is about how do we dissipate the fear and enjoy more of the love. There's lots of play and techniques we're going to do today.
That is awesome. And I'm actually going to just break down the topic because the way that you talked about it with me was so inspiring. So we're going to talk about what causes stress. And it's not what you think it is, right? So that's exciting to learn. How to prevent stress, tools and tips, and playful ways to make things easier. Also, how to release those negative loyalty patterns before visiting family, very important. And then understanding your family dynamics and how to change yourself for the better so that you can enjoy the holidays instead of them stressing you out. I just loved the way that you said that. So I figured I would up front so people are excited to dive in.
Wonderful. Thank you. And for all of those listening, I know some of you are on YouTube, some of you are on Facebook, and some of you are driving. Some of the techniques done today, I'm going to invite you to go to the replay because if you're driving, it might not be safe to do some of them. So
yeah, good point.
I want you to be safe. And all of you who are listening, I'm here in service like Valerie is. And I want to give you my website because there's a gift being offered. If you resonate with me and want some extra support, I'm giving away a free consultation to help you with your blind spots and negativity and clearing. So you can just go to my website, LottieCooper.com. I'll spell it for you. LottieCooper.com. Click the button and you can get a free consult with me to support you for the holidays to go deeper and heal those loyalty patterns at the root level once and for all.
Exactly. And Lottie was actually a friend of a friend when I first met her. And I was just blown away by how similar we are. And there is about a month wait for my free call. So if you're really stressed out and you want a call with somebody to help you to get centered inside of yourself and what would make you feel alive and vibrant, then and you resonate with Lottie after hearing this or watching this, then I encourage you to call her or to go to her website and set up the call. And I'll tell you a little bit about Lottie before we dive in. So I'm excited to interview Lottie because she really does integrate both her training. She has a master's degree in body-centered psychology and then also theta healing. And she integrates that plus 50 plus other healing modalities to create custom programs to support deep transformation at the root level. And she and I talked on the phone about the modalities that she practices. And I'm very excited. I was just so excited to interview her. She really helps people to find the root cause to chronic physical, emotional, mental, spiritual, and relational issues and uncover those hidden blind spots that really prevent them and you from being your best self. And that's why I thought, well, holiday stress is the best topic to talk about because it's top of mind this time of year. And how do you stay centered and balanced? And so first, before we really dive into the topic of holiday stress, Lottie has a really inspiring story about how she overcame her own stresses of her own family dynamic and her upbringing and the culture, and how she healed herself and now heals others. So that's the first thing that I'm going to want you to share, Lottie, is just what was your own journey to heal your own stress? And then, of course, that inspires everyone about what's possible.
Yes. Well, thank you, Valerie. So I'm a full body empath. So when I was younger, I was a peacemaker in my family, and my parents got divorced when I was 7 years old. And they're both physicists, so they're very left-brained, even though they're also artistic. And I actually didn't feel safe in either household. My mother chose to be with a married man, and the stress about that was, without judging her choice, was this is what before cell phones, and she wasn't allowed to call him. So every time the phone rang, she'd jump up to answer the phone, even if I was in a heart-centered conversation with her or vulnerable. So I got interrupted over and over and over again. And then when she got stressed, she would scream at me.
Wow.
And then she forget. And then it was awful. And then she was very generous and kind, right? So it was this back and forth. So that
kind of Jekyll and Hyde dynamic.
Mm-hmm. So in my body, it caused my nervous system to be on hypervigilance. So if you out there are on hypervigilant, when's the shoe going to drop? What that does to the nervous system, it overworks your adrenals, right?
Totally.
You might disassociate out of your body, which is hard to be grounded. And if you're disassociated, and sometimes you might eat. I used to eat to get back in my body. So then I couldn't tell when I was full.
Totally. I didn't even realize I was emotional eating until I did a deeper dive into my own healing. I thought that I was eating when I was hungry until I realized, like, that's not hunger. That's actually anxiety.
Yeah, that's right. And a lot of people have anxiety these days. Yeah. And I've been teaching with my clients. I'm not going to do this here. It's a little bit deeper, but I do something called the instant mind shift. And you work with colors and energies to clear other people's energies quickly. And if you're interested, we can do that later on a personal session. But for today, while I'm sharing this story, is I went back and forth between my houses. And my dad ended up marrying a man who didn't like that I existed. So again, Here I am. I was closer to my dad, had to live with my mom, and then my stepmother didn't even want me around. She felt threatened by me. She was jealous of me. She came from an Italian Catholic background. Then my dad converted to Hinduism, Buddhism. So I learned to meditate when I was young. That was huge. So learning breathing practices. Yeah, so breathing practices. That's one thing I wanted to share today. So I guess, can I mix some tips while I share my story? Or do you want me to just do my story? Okay.
I mean, whatever it is that you feel is best.
Yeah. So one of the things, if you don't do anything all, if you learn to do a longer exhale, just listen to my voice, when I slow down my breathing, when we get excited, we start talking, the voice goes up. So if you're with your family and you get excited and you're up and coming out of your body, slow your voice down, literally. Take a deep inhale. You can do it now. And a long 2, 3, 4. That's right. 5, 6, 7, 8. Exhale. Inhale. 2, 3, 4. Exhale. 2, 3, 4, 5. There we go. That small, simple thing will get you from your fight, flight, over burnout with your adrenals to rest and digest, where your body can start to heal itself.
Absolutely.
So if you forget everything we did today and you just remember to breathe.
Yes.
So a lot of times when we're stressed, what do? We hold our breath. Oh my God, I have to do this. I have to do that. Slow down. Exhale.
Exactly. It's kind of like that Einstein quote that the problem can't be solved at the same level that it created it, right? So if you're stressed and you're like, what can I do about it? That's going to create more stress.
Exactly. And then the mind starts to race.
First. Right.
Yeah. So growing up Jewish, both my parents are religious. And from New York, even though I moved to New Mexico, it's like fast paced. Everyone's talking over each other. I don't know if you have a family like that.
Well, mine was more like emotionally dismissive, like if I had a feeling, they would be like, well, look on the bright side, instead of being with my feelings.
Yeah. So that's painful when that happens when we're dismissed. And I had some dismissive things in my family as well. So I left home at 14 to go to boarding school. I ran away. I say I ran away because I applied behind my parents' back and then they let me go.
Right.
And
Well,
that
and
was
that
really
was good
hard.
advocating for yourself though. But at
Mhm.
14, it's extremely hard.
And then I had an eating disorder. I became partially anorexic to actually please my mom. She was a New York
Wow.
ballerina. She said, "You can't be loved unless you're thin." That was the energy she put out there.
Wow.
And so I was on diet since I was 9. I went to
Mm.
3 colleges, 3 massage schools, psychic school, so much, and then all these modalities to heal my own body. And I healed myself from the eating disorder. I always wanted to help people, especially teenagers, not have to go through the suffering I went through from bullying. I was molested also as a kid from babysitters. I didn't tell anyone until I was 21. So
Wow.
holding things in. So one thing that causes stress, everyone, is secrets. Most of
Hmm.
us have been harassed or molested or raped. I've had all of those things. And to heal that, talking about it isn't enough. So one of the deep things I've learned because I got trained in it, but I got healed from it is data healing. We do some trauma clearing and sexual abuse clearing. And I'm really good at that. And I like helping others heal that quickly without having to relive the abuse. And
Yes.
so there's soul retrieval involved in that, and also clearing perpetrators' energy out of the body. Sometimes you don't know why you're acting out, maybe through food or promiscuously, if you've had abuse that happened to your body or an ancestor's body and didn't happen to you, or you witnessed it. You absorb the perpetrator's feelings. We can't process another person's feelings in our body. So when you recognize, oh, I've been acting out my mother's feelings, or lately clients have been coming, it's been horrifying, but their grandparents, grandpas have been pedophiles.
Wow.
And so how do you clear that out of the family lineage? So that's some of the work I do. But if you're the sensitive one in the family and you've absorbed it, right, you're now having all this shame and guilt that might not even be yours. So the first thing is to not beat yourself up for it, but
Right.
recognizing it with love and forgiveness. And so insight is the first way to release stress. You have insight. We're going to share about a lot of things that cause stress today. And then tools to heal that, which is you can do it on your own. There's lots of books. There's YouTube, finding Valerie or me as a practitioner, whoever you resonate with, or multiple practitioners. So you deserve to heal on your healing journey and release these stress patterns. So that's one thing I wanted to
Absolutely.
share. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. So far you've given us two really important tools. First of all, the parasympathetic breathing, which is the longer exhale than the inhale. And you can also Google that if you want more information. And then I really agree with what you're saying that, look, I know that there's people listening who have all different belief systems. So people might not believe that they take on their ancestors' energy. But if you're an empath and you're sensitive, you might have, I want you to take a moment and notice for yourself, like if your parents were controlling, or if they were, if they didn't have good boundaries themselves, or if they fought a lot. Did you take on the role of being a people pleaser? Or did you take on the role of breaking off the conflict, or of just distancing yourself? And those are roles, but they're not who you really are. And so that is, you're holding other people's energy in your body. And that's what I imagine that you mean by that, Lottie. In addition
that's exactly
to
right.
other healing modalities that you practice, but this applies to everyone, even if they don't believe in ancestral trauma. Although if you do, then I mean, I do, and I agree with what you're saying. I just want everyone to know that no matter what your belief system, we take on limiting beliefs from our family. We take on, shame that anytime someone said, "Who do you think you are?" I imagine your answer to that wasn't, "I'm an infinite creative being. Thank you for asking." Right?
That's a beautiful answer.
Right.
Oh, and on that note of like when people need to do power over and put us down so they feel okay with themselves, it's because we're made on a body level to move towards what's familiar. Right. So like, why is this happening again? Or before I do share that, most people, or they might, but not know what mirror neurons are. So mirror neurons is like, why am I mimicking my parents? Well, you have something called mirror neurons. And in our brain, we naturally mirror our parents for our survival. That's how you develop. That's how you grow. It's completely natural and it's important. So as a child, if your mom says one thing and your dad or whoever your caregivers are say opposing things, or maybe your mom says 3 different things that oppose each other, right? Then it's creating these inner conflicts in your system. It's like, oh, I need to please that person because if not, I'll get yelled at, I'll be dismissed, I'll be put down, or I'll be ignored or neglected. So we become people pleasers. It's natural at first, but if your parents support you in being authentic, then they say, hey, you don't have to be like me. You're allowed to have your own expression. And you first learn like them because you're still learning. You're a baby and you're completely open. That's the theta brainwave. That's why I do theta healing. You're 0 to 8. You're in a theta brainwave, absorbing everything like, oh, wow, that's amazing. Oh, teach me. Oh, I'm supposed to be angry here. Okay. Oh, I'm supposed to be mad here or sad here. Like you're learning why we have emotions, how they work. And so that's all normal. The problem is that when they're conflicting, they become stuck places inside and they can cause disease. They can cause cancer. They can cause diabetes. All this dis-ease is literally just stuck energies. And when we unwind those stuck energies and energy starts to flow, you get healthy again. So even just that awareness of like, oh, someone said something, if we agree with it, it becomes part of our brain chemistry. If we say no to it inside, it doesn't matter what someone says out here. If you say no to it inside, it's not going to stick. But if you're like, oh, there's a little truth or that, it can get in, it goes deeper, deeper, and deeper. And then the mind looks for evidence to support your belief structures. So you want to say something?
Well, yeah, no, I'm just confirming that, because let's say you want to buy a pair of red shoes, right? And you looked at red shoes in the store. And then I don't know if you've noticed this, but I've noticed that whatever I'm looking for, all of a sudden, that's all I see when I look out on the street, right? Like I see everybody that's wearing red shoes because that's what happens in our mind. We take on these beliefs from our parents because we just absorb them. And then and they don't see that we have absorbed them, right? Because they might be unconscious for them too, right? Yeah. But then that becomes the filter through which we experience the world. Like, I'm not good enough, or I have to please others before myself, right?
And that's why even if you've worked really hard and you're living a new life and you've changed a lot of your belief systems, you have in this part of your brain, but the deeper part of your brain has not. So when you go back into the same environment, the same state where you grow up, for example, you are going to repeat everything and act it out unless you've done the deeper work. And that's what I do with people, to pull out the root cause and give yourself a new blueprint. So that's a higher level of deep learning and discernment. If you don't get to do that right away, you can still take a deep breath and realize, oh, I'm about to act out an old pattern, and use your willpower, your discipline, and self-love and devotion to say, I'm going to stop myself. I'm literally going to hold my tongue. I like to say these things. So I don't say something I regret later, right?
Totally. So, I know that's cute, actually. Like, hold your tongue. Well, if you actually did that at a family gathering, that'd be weird.
No, but you can think in your mind. You can just like, holding my tongue right now.
Although, I mean, my pattern was that I would hold my tongue and then I would not know what to say. And then that caused a block in my throat, right? So that's why I'm a relationship coach, because I studied all these communication modalities to learn what to say when I'm feeling triggered that, brings the other person closer rather than pushes them away.
Absolutely. And
biting my tongue was my problem.
Speaking compassionately. But if you don't have that tool yet of I statements, right? Speaking I feel instead of blame statements, you did this, right?
Right.
I'm uncomfortable now. I'm going to take a moment for myself. Or I don't know how to answer that. I don't know is a beautiful thing, because when people think you should know and they're over you like this, you should do this. And you're like, that's an interesting perspective. Yeah. Say it's an interesting perspective, you're not agreeing or disagreeing. So you get to stay in this beautiful place of neutrality, which releases stress.
Yes. So let's really dive into this topic then. First, let's talk about what are the pressures of the holidays that people get caught in, just so that we get on the same page. It's, you already mentioned one, right? Because I think this is something that confuses a lot of people. Why is it that I'm really happy and grounded and productive in the rest of my life, and then I go home with my parents and I feel like I'm 5 years old?
Yeah.
Right. So that's the first stress, right?
Yeah. And then there's what's called labeling theory. If they've labeled you in a certain position and they're projecting, our minds are very powerful, that you are going to act a certain way and you're open, your centers are open to receive it. It's really important to energetically shield your aura, right? And that's some of the tools I teach too, because if you don't, their energy enters you, you have open centers, and then you're like, it automatically respond to that. So how do you psychically block what they're saying so you can hold your center? Those are important skills to have.
Definitely. Yeah. So we can like talk about all the problems, and then we can of course talk about how to
help them.
Yeah. So and on two levels, we'll give concrete tools today, of course, but then those deeper healing modalities that Lottie's talking about, of course, those would be appropriate for working with a practitioner. But of course that there are things that you can do right now.
Absolutely.
To prepare for going to see your family in a couple of days.
One of the things, number one, is insight and awareness. What patterns, go back in time in your mind right now and just look at what patterns when I go home do I act out on? And visualize and see what they are. And then ask yourself, how would I like to handle them differently? You can even write that out for yourself, right? Because that's preparing your mind like, okay, that's who I've been. I'm going to choose something different. And it's like kind of like if you're a star athlete, doing that basketball flip, or, you're preparing a speech for something you practice over and over. So you literally, with your spouse or a friend, mom's going to tell me this. How do I respond so I don't get hooked? Right?
Yep, exactly. Like that's the thing. You plan it out. You can even do role plays with a girlfriend.
Exactly. And it's fun, and you can play with it.
It can be fun. I've done that. I've done role plays with my friends around how to have difficult conversations. And it can be fun because you could like joke around with your friend and make it lighthearted.
And you can play with an accent if you want to. Why
not? Yes. Or like scream your head off by preparing them first, and like, here's what I really want to say to my dad,
Yeah. Yeah. Get the emotion and the pain out before you even get there.
Right. Right. Like, I think that's another good tip, is like journaling it out, like journal out. Maybe we could present our own journaling techniques. Like I have an anger letter where I have people like vent all the things that they're angry about and don't censor it and curse the other people out. But then, of course, journal about how their behavior makes sense given their upbringing, given their history, right? That like helps you to have compassion. But that's not the end of it. Then you talk about, okay, what am I doing to move past this pattern? How am I healing myself? How do I want to show up differently? And you really journal that out. And you could journal out role plays. My mom's going to say this. I'm going to say that in response. Here's how I'm going to feel. This is how I'm going to deal with that feeling, right? I'm going to challenge my limiting beliefs. I'm going to see how I can get that need met another way, right? Like journal about it, prepare for it. That's my journaling process. How about yours, Lottie? What do you encourage people to ask themselves questions?
In their journal process, I've been more, I used to do a lot of journaling. I don't do that much anymore. I actually have been working with teaching people to step into their future self energetically.
Ooh, yes.
And then merge with your future self who already has handled all these situations. And you literally get a visceral energy blueprint on a physiological level, and the words and the behavior start to shift. So I've been playing with that more than journaling recently, which has been really interesting.
That makes so much sense. That's called future pacing and neurolinguistic programming.
Yeah.
So maybe you could even guide people through a practice in that right now. I mean, you wouldn't want to do that if you're driving, but I think that could be really powerful. What do you think?
Sure, that would be fun. So I invite those here to close your eyes and feel your body. And I'm going to actually invite you to give yourself a hug. Our body responds to touch. This is another way of loving ourselves. So hug your shoulders down to your elbows. It calms the nervous system, and thank your body. Our bodies love us. And one of the things, I'm just listening, I'm reading the room energetically of who's going to be listening to what words might support you. But one thing is just telling yourself, I love you, regardless of what other people say. I love you. And you're allowed to make mistakes in the holidays, and we're going to be okay. And I love you. And just notice how that feels when you allow yourself to really drink in the love you seek from your family, but you've already given it to yourself. That's right. Allowing that love in. So I want you to invite a future self who is amazing, fully loves themselves, is prosperous, good communicators, happy, has good boundaries. That's right. They already exist. And I invite you to have them stand in front of you. And they've had the most amazing transformed holiday with their family, or on your own if you're choosing to be alone, or whomever you choose to be with. But it was the most amazing holiday because they gave themselves while in relationship. So see that person before you. If you're not visual, feel that person in front of you, know that they're there. And now I invite you to invite them to merge with you. Allow them to merge into your body. Notice how your body shifts. Is it warmer? Is your spine lengthened because you feel like, oh, wow, I'm strong. I'm here. I love myself. And as you allow this love and this wealth and this happiness in, notice that when people are around you, whatever they're doing, if they're happy and joyful, or if they're asking you for something, to do something, that you, out of love for yourself, know exactly how to respond. That's right. When it's true yes, you say yes. When it's a no, you feel comfortable saying no. Without concern if you're hurting their feelings or not, you let them have their response, that they'll honor themselves. That's right. And if it's a maybe, you say, maybe, I don't know yet. Let me feel into it, or let me think about it. Whatever way your system works, that's right. And just notice how that feels. And take another deep breath and ask your future self right now, who's merging with you, if she has or he has or they have any gifts for you that they want you to have before you go through this holiday season. Any advice or energies or ideas for you or words. Just notice what comes and allow it now. That's right. Just breathing. I'm just going to invite you to breathe. Ignore what I'm saying if you're getting information from your future self. Allowing yourself to experience this transmission, these images or memories or insights or possibilities from your future self. That's right. Beautiful. We're going to stay here another little bit, knowing that you can come back to connect with your future self another time. Any lasting words, parting before you part? That's right. Receiving even more from your future self. And when you're ready, thank your future self. Invite your mind and your brain and your memory to remember everything you learned effortlessly and easily in just the right timing for your holiday. Support you in having a glorious, happy, healthy, wealthy holiday. And when you're ready, you can gently open your eyes.
Mm. That was lovely.
Actually, what do you notice?
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, I'm kind of lucky because stress for me doesn't really come from my family. I have a pretty good relationship with my family now, and we're pretty stress-free during the holidays, thank God. But my current healing journey is around healing my back. And so that's what I was visualizing. And as soon as I tapped into my future self, I noticed I sat up straighter. My spine was lengthening and widening, and my future self was giving me guidance as to how I could be more integrated throughout the day so that I could be more relaxed and take more breaks and do more of these exercises and tools and tips that we're talking about for myself between working, and then be more relaxed. And that would allow my back to be more relaxed in general. And so I really merged with where I'm stepping into. So
that's
that was
beautiful.
really lovely for me.
Yay. Thank you, Valerie. Yeah. And everyone listening, our physical bodies are magic. Like they want to take care of us, and they've absorbed childhood stuff, ancestral stuff, all these things. So in order to heal the physical body, because a lot of us have pain and discomfort, is learning how to talk to the body, almost like a person. Body, needs, what do you need right now? I don't know.
Totally.
So one of the things, it takes practice learning to talk to the body, learning muscle testing. Muscle testing. This will help you with the holidays. If my YouTube station is going to be there, I think it's the Lottie Cooper, LottieCooper.com, teaches people muscle testing. Lots of people teach this. It doesn't have to be for me, but it's like you put up your arm, you say, body, show me a yes, be strong. Body, show me a no. Okay, so that's a no. Body, I need water right now. No, I've been drinking a lot of water, but usually water, I need water, right? I need to stay on to finish this podcast. Yes, I need to leave right now. So, that's a silly way to say, my name is Lottie. Yes, my name is David. No, that's my brother's name. So you learn to teach your body to go weak when it's not good for you. And when you teach yourself this muscle testing, let's say you're going to go and eat a lot of food. Am I even hungry now? No. Oh, I'm thirsty. A lot of time we get confused. This is a small thing that helps people is drink water with like electrolytes, which is just a pinch of sea salt or lemon. And if you drink water before you eat, then you'll realize, oh, what am I hungry for? And what looks good? Is it looking good for my inner child because I'm comfort eating, or is it healthy right now? And when you eat healthier, it makes the holidays easier. And it's not about not enjoying a dessert if that's what you want to do. Enjoy the dessert, but when are you actually full?
Right. That's the real communication with the body. Because what I used to do is I used to look for the feeling of fullness, and that was actually me eating too much. When I really learned to listen to what my body actually wanted, then my stomach tells me when it's sated instead of full. And that's usually only like 70% full, but it's like I learn how to identify that sensation. And then I have actually more energy. Like I don't get that food coma. And then if you have that food coma, then you have to drink coffee, and then you get stressed out, and then it adds to the stress, right? So you cannot create that in the first place, right?
Absolutely. So one of the process, we're not going to do that today, I guide people in, is having to listen to the body, and your body will give you a warning, 5 bites or 3 bites or 10 bites. So we program that into the subconscious mind. So then you can be like, oh, I don't need any more food. My body's giving me a warning. And the reason I give a warning is because sometimes if you're automatic eating, and it's like, oh, I missed out on all that pleasure, right? It's like, oh, I've gotten a warning. So if it's the last 2 bites, so I'm just going to show you guys. So one of the things I love is dark chocolate. And this is raw chocolate. I don't know if you can see it. It's Honey Mama's.
Honey Mama, I love
Honey Mama. It is raw chocolate. So I can just break off, instead of like, oh, I could eat this giant bite, a teeny, if you can see that little bit, and you just taste it. Oh, wow, just even a tiny bit. It's this amazing chocolate. It's so
really is.
pleasurable.
I mean, I could definitely eat a little bit of Honey Mama and be satisfied. But like if I ate like something like Hershey's, I probably couldn't be satisfied from a little bit because it's not as good.
Right. And it's
so that's like why like quality,
sugar.
Right? Quality food is so important.
It is. Like refined sugar makes you spike up and go down. That causes stress. So if you're going to have something sweet, have honey or maple syrup or something that's a little bit healthier, or fruit, right?
Well, honey and maple syrup are just as high spike your blood sugar. What
That's
doesn't
true. But if you
spike
just
your
have a
blood
little
sugar
bit of a
is,
taste,
yes,
that's
yes,
true. That's true. Just have a
so
taste
not
of
actually any, I
flavor.
mean, I don't know. It's kind of my pet peeve when people say honey is better than sugar. I mean, it has more vitamins and minerals in it, sure. But yeah,
Absolutely
it
still
spikes
spike
your
you
blood
up.
sugar
It
just
spikes you
as
up.
much.
But I mean, anything, if you just do even just a little taste of it, it's not going to hurt your body. And if you
Totally.
bless it with love without. So the other thing that causes stress is we guilt ourselves.
Exactly.
So whatever you choose to do, even if you chose to eat a whole cake or you did something that you knew wasn't good for you, and it's going to sound funny, allow yourself to enjoy doing it. Have fun
Totally.
doing it. It's the mental and emotional stress of guilt causes way more things worse a lot of times in the body than the actual physical thing itself.
I
Not always.
completely agree.
Mm-hmm.
And let's talk about that for a minute, because I think this is very common, where if we make a mistake, it doesn't have to be with food, it could be with anything, then we beat ourselves up. And the beating ourselves, we think, like, this is what our mind thinks, that beating ourselves up is going to teach us a lesson, and then we're going to do something better next time, right? Mm-hmm. But that's actually not the way the mind works. Beating ourselves up actually makes us feel shame. And then we're less likely to do what's healthy for us next time. We're more likely to act out of our old patterns, right?
Right. Yes, because then the shame builds and we bury the shame. So one of the things I love teaching people is to turn their inner critic into their inner cheerleader. Woo!
I love that. No, I mean, I love that. And I have my own journey with that, but I'm excited to hear yours.
So, well, for me, growing up, needing to be perfectionistic about everything, straight A student, my parents went to Harvard. I felt that pressure. And boarding school, it's like having to look a certain way, right? I have very wide feet, collapsed arches. I needed orthotics. I could not wear pretty shoes. Like, they hurt my feet so badly. So I felt like I couldn't be feminine. I was machismo. I hurt my back when I was 19. My brother fell on me. We were playing with water guns and a rage just went through him. He snapped and fell on my body. My back has not been this since then. It's my barometer point of my hypermobility. You and I have talked about. So I'll just show you my elbows. So you can see my elbows are hypermobile, right?
So interesting.
Yeah. So I'm hyper flexible with my joints, which causes an interesting set of how do you work with this body, right? Yes. With love. And so learning that the mind is the obedient servant of the soul. So learning to disassociate when I was little, I would play dead so my friends couldn't drop me off at my mom's house. Literally, they would tickle me, do things. They're like, oh, she's asleep. She's not waking up. I was completely awake, out of my body, witnessing that they weren't hurting my body because I did not want to go home. Like, that's how desperate I was sometimes to not go home. And I have a great relationship with my mom now, by the way. It's amazing. But this is how it was growing up. Yeah. And so I really learned we're a soul, regardless of what your experience, this is mine, having a human experience. And then I knew that all the mixed messages and all this negative self-talk was getting internalized. So I created a very negative system and low self-esteem with myself. And so I've been, as I said, I work with teachers still 6 hours a week to heal myself because of all the splits that I had. Just so everyone knows, I'm still in process, in progress, but I have a lot to share. And I bring this up is because everyone has things that they need to learn and share. Everyone needs coaching and counseling and healing. It's not just for those that's like, oh, I'm broken. Right. And you might feel broken, but all of us are works in progress. And the beauty of that is it's fun to be, oh, wow, look what I learned this new thing about myself. Oh, here I was criticizing myself. Hey, little critic or big critic. And you can talk to it. It's like, let's give you a new job. Right. You needed to criticize me to be part of my family of judgmentalness because I grew up with a very judgmental family. And to fit in there, we don't have to do that anymore. We grew up. So it's like repatterning that. And then I do a whole giant process around talking to that part or the rebellious part, right? The part of us is like, I'm not going to do it, and is stubborn and holds itself back and maybe cusses.
Yes, I know the parts work is so interesting, right? Like it's like I have when I do parts work, I have characters that come out of me that are like, where did that come from? But then and you integrate it, and then it actually feels. Then I have more energy. Then I have more vitality.
Absolutely. So, especially so, all of you, I know a lot of Valerie's people are all about soul, love, and relationship. And I'm with my soulmate. I've known him for lifetimes, and we have a lot. We're a big age difference. We're two different cultures coming together, and I'm pulling him out of a very dark place. So we work with the spirit world. That's a whole nother conversation. But I'm bringing this up because I want you to know that when you have love together, all your patterns come up for healing. And you act them out. So when you're aware of that, oh, you're acting like your mother now or your father, and you're like, oh, wow, my face did change. I felt that. You can play with it, and we can have a sense of humor. This is a big part of enjoying the holidays. Like, oh my God, here I did that again. Woohoo!
Yes. Yes.
Make fun of yourself. Oh my God, it makes everything so much easier. So that's a tool just in itself.
Yes. Just to like when you, instead of beating yourself up, recognize that this is a pattern, and yes, you can reprogram it, but not in an instant. I mean, yes, you can in an instant. We could give some tools, which is literally saying like, oh, there's a voice. How old is that voice? What are the voice's feelings and needs, right? And translate it into nicer language, right? That's like the quick tool. But what you're talking about is the deeper healing work. And that's, in my experience, really necessary as well. But like, we could also just have fun and play with it, right? We could just be like, oh, I acted like my dad again. Well, let me do that more, and let me be like more controlling and make fun of it, you know, just because that is how to like snap myself out of the pattern, recognizing that it's not my fault that it was created, and I'm going to get past it anyway, but I could have fun with it now.
Right. And take responsibility. So it's right. You observe it, you can play with it, and then hire someone like me or Valerie or whoever you resonate with, because we all need help with this deeper work. We're meant to be in tribe and community. We're not meant to do this. We're not solo acts.
Right.
Right.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. The deeper healing work is so profound and transformative, and everyone has their own way of doing it, right? And so I know a lot of you do inner child work, and that's so deep and intricate, and there's so many different avenues of doing it. But ultimately, it's about bringing up the old trauma and then bringing in the resources that you have now as an adult, you know, both from your adult self, from the higher realms, like you're talking about, and using that love that you can tap into and that healing energy that you can tap into to then release those old wounds for good so that you feel better. And I do that work through a modality called Hakomi in addition to other modalities. And I know that Lottie has her own modalities that she practices. And so absolutely, I think that on the one hand, we're giving you some tools that you can use today, right? Yeah. Like the parasympathetic breathing and like the, either journaling or stepping into your future self and role playing how you want it to go different. Because if you imagine it differently, you're training your mind to look for that situation, just like with the red shoes.
Absolutely. And then just basics, drinking water. I mean, if you don't drink enough water, you get headaches. Your brain doesn't work as clearly. That's so simple, but what's your body weight? Half your body weight in water. And people are like, that's a lot of water. It is. But when I get dehydrated easily and I forget, and if your lips start to get chapped, you don't need chapstick. It means you're thirsty.
Totally. Yeah. And like, if you don't like water, I don't always like the taste of plain water. I put a little apple cider vinegar and stevia in it, or lemon juice and stevia.
Absolutely. It doesn't have to be plain.
Yeah. And those are all really healthy ingredients. Or you can put a splash of some kind of spritzer in it. I mean, there's so many things that you can do to make things more fun, right? It doesn't have to be bland and boring just because it's healthy. So we're talking about both the deeper inner child work, which I know that both me and Lottie do, but then also there's some concrete tools you can do today by just like personifying and speaking back to your inner critic and changing its role, right? That can be really fun. And then also just learning how to say, well, that's an interesting perspective, instead of arguing with your family, right?
Yeah. Or in access consciousness, they ask questions like, what's right about this situation?
Exactly.
What about the perceive, be, receive, or know about this situation? So when you open up yourself to multiple perspectives simultaneously, so there's playful ways to do it. Like, okay, if I was my dad here or my mom here, why am I perceiving it this way, right? You play with other people's shoes. Or
Yes.
visualize being up on the roof and looking down at everybody. Okay, oh, and if you see it as a movie and you like distance yourself from it, this might sound funny, but literally if you stick your head between your legs and you look upside down at everyone's feet, you can't not laugh. And like, oh, what, everyone's on the ceiling now. Like we did this Pluto exercise. I'm just bringing up something.
That's awesome. Like, I love that.
we everyone put their heads between their legs, and we were walking that way for like 20 minutes and meeting each other. And my nervous system literally reversed, and I thought we were on the ceiling. Like, not just thought it, my whole system. But like those science fiction movies, reoriented that way.
That's really
It was
funny.
one of the most wild experiences of perspective shifting. But when we can change perspectives, again, it lightens everything up. And then I teach people this. I'm going to do this now with you. Shake like a dog. Shake, 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 shake. Don't do this while you're driving. Just shake, 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 shake.
Oh my God, I love shaking. I mean, I have a little mini trampoline and I sometimes like jump around and shake on it. And that is such a good stress reliever. Yes.
Absolutely, because that's lymphatic system. So our blood system, these are just basic physiology. Our lymphatic needs to shake or bounce to pump up the lymph. And when you're detoxing, it'll make you feel better. Hot baths with Epsom salts and lemon in it, just pulls stuff out of the body. So Masoto did those pictures of water, right? We're made of mostly water. So when you have a negative thought, you can see it like hatred. It just dispels and makes this awful, distorted thing. You send love into something. It looks like this hexagram that's gorgeous, this ice crystal, and our bodies are water. So before going home, and let's say you have anger, but you don't want to hurt anyone, right? Send your anger down into the ground to transmute into love, for example, and allow yourself to appreciate. Think of 3 things you like about the person, even if it might be what they're wearing, something, and that'll uplift the whole energy for the holidays, even if you think you're still holding a grudge or resentment. So I do a lot of grudge and resentment work with people. And so grudges and resentments don't keep us safer. They actually just hurt ourselves.
Exactly. Yeah. I've heard of resentment is like a poison that you drink that you think is going to hurt the other person.
It doesn't. Just hurts us. What you can do is once you release resentment and keep the learning and discernment, it doesn't mean you don't have good boundaries, doesn't mean you have to talk to the person, but the resentment creates an energy and it just hurts your own body. So doing resentment clearing, and there's multiple formats of ways to release resentment out of the body. So those are some things to help with the holidays as well. Also,
absolutely
not overcommitting. So I worked with someone recently and they were helping their family every night for like an hour, mediating. One of the family members was going through it, and like it was causing harm. She's a healer herself on her business, and her new relationship just got married. And I asked her if she even wanted to go home for the holidays, and her truth was no, but she's like, I couldn't dare even ask them. We did enough deep work that she then not only had the courage to say to her family that she didn't want to go, she shifted her frequency so much when she said she's not coming because she just wants to take care of business and her new partner. They're like, oh, we're sorry, we can't come down there for the holidays. It was like, are you kidding me? This was after just working with her for 2 sessions, and we got to the root cause of this enmeshment. We get enmeshed. Yes. And when you really clear, it's amazing how the ecology and environment around you shifts. And I like people, it's good to write what you're going through and whatever modalities you're going through later and look back. It's like, oh my God, it's not just a little change. It's a personality change on an identity level that you forgot who you were. And those are beautiful to witness. And having a journal of your process is one of the biggest gifts you can give to yourself. The approval you look outside of yourself for, it's getting given back to yourself. So that reparenting part, is a key in terms of de-stressing. Yeah.
Exactly. And I completely agree that once we get to the root cause and we really do that deep healing work, then it doesn't really make logical sense, but the people around us seem different.
Yeah, they haven't changed. It's you're the one that's changed how you
exactly
participate with them. Yeah.
Right. But it's like you're changing the filter through which you see them. So then it appears that they're different, but they're not different. It's us that's different. Right. So that's kind of the beauty of it. I mean, I know for me, like I used to argue with my dad all the time when I was a kid and in my 20s. And it wasn't until I learned nonviolent communication and I learned how to give him empathy and then, but maintain my own boundaries, not sacrifice myself and my own needs, stand really strong in what I needed, but then also give him empathy. Then we had a good relationship because I learned how to not make him wrong and just validate his point of view. I didn't have to agree with him. I could just share mine. And then we had a good relationship, you know? So it's recognizing what exactly do you need in order to feel good around your family, right? So it's not necessarily, yes, I love your pointers about thinking about what you like about them because that shifts your perspective immediately because there's always things you like and things you don't like, right? So what you focus on, you get more of. So focusing on what you like is important, but I want to make sure we're not like being Pollyanna-ish around it and then like suppress your feelings and just focus on what you like. So then if you're feeling insecure or angry, yes, of course, it's about releasing those feelings. But what I let's like share some really quick tools that people can do to release their feelings, like shaking. You mentioned one.
Right.
If you're
like just shaking and screaming and moving
energy is good. Right. Exactly.
Yeah. So anger, right? When we feel someone's violated a boundary, whether it's a real boundary or a made up boundary, we get our heart races, we get hot. And then we get this is the beauty of anger, 360 degrees of awareness.
Yep.
So first it's noticing where was the boundary crossed, right? Then you can ask yourself, am I in present time or am I triggered and I'm 5 years old or 10 years old again? And is this my reaction appropriate to what actually just happened? So it's like, take that deep breath and okay, what just happened? Step away so you can review what just happened, so you can respond instead of react. Yep. And like, oh, wow, what they did actually was not okay. Then find out what is your voice and truth. Calm your nervous system down. So what's the creative action from this anger? Okay, whether it's righteous injustice, I don't want revenge. Screaming is revenge. So, hey, that wasn't okay. I feel this way. You can be firm and stern, but you don't have to act out your anger. So it's a way of facilitating your anger to have a good, healthy boundary.
Yep, exactly.
And honoring
I love that. And then that allows you to speak for what you want rather than against the other person.
Exactly. I need or I want or I desire. And then they have free will sacred. If they still don't want to give it to you and they're being unfair or whatever that story is, that's then on them. Right.
And then now that when you were a kid, that was devastating because they had the power to take it away. But now that you're an adult, you can get that need met another way, and it's the inner child work. If you feel like you can't, because then you're probably regressing in that moment and feeling like they still have the power to take it away from you, but they don't anymore. Now you're an adult.
Absolutely. And then you learn how to reparent yourself. And that's a luscious and lovely and beautiful thing to do. So the biggest gift actually you can give is reparenting yourself from a place of kindness and healthy boundaries and appreciation and all these things.
Exactly. So, I mean, I think that's a really great note to end on actually as our last tool is reparenting, because that's a really sweet one. In fact, this whole year, I've actually read all of the Adele Faber books. And I forgot the other author. I'm not giving her credit. I'm sorry. But How to Speak, so how to talk so little kids listen, how to listen so little kids talk. And I've been using all of those tools to reparent my own inner child. So for example, if I want something and it's not appropriate, like I want to go take a dance break and I have a client coming up, right? I used to just say, no, I'll do that later. It's time for a client. And like, that feels fine, right? But now that I'm doing this deeper healing work, I realized, my inner child actually wants me to give it to her in fantasy.
Yes, and you can do that inside your heart.
Exactly. Like, what would it be like if I had a dance break? And then I could feel free and I could feel energized and, that would be so lovely. And we'll do it later.
Yeah.
Just giving myself that for 30 seconds, which is what a real child needs, instead of saying, no, that's what'll prevent a temper tantrum with a real child, is give it to them in fantasy and then tell them when they can have it and put it on their wish list, and like all these tools from that book I'm then using to reparent my own inner child. So it's basically treating yourself the way that you needed to be treated when you were little that you didn't get.
Right. Because when we were little, we needed that affection, the attention, the acknowledgement. Like David Rico talks about the 5 A's. What is it? Affection, acknowledgement, appreciation, allowing, and acceptance. So the 5 A's, he has a whole book on that, which is awesome. And you give those to yourself in the moment, because our mind, why movies are amazing, but also can be very detrimental. Let's see. Okay. Right. Another stress thing. Do not watch horror movies or very dramatic movies if you want to have low stress, because your nervous system literally goes through the movie with you, and they're like, oh my God, that movie was exhausting and it was amazing. It was a documentary, but my heart is now exhausted.
Exactly.
So your inner child, when you give yourself it in your inner heart space, she doesn't know the difference because, you've grown up already. But when we've had trauma as a child, or we're neglected in certain ways, or we get stuck, parts of us are literally emotionally stuck at that age. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people don't know that. So it's not your fault that when you get triggered, now you're 5. It's you emotionally were stuck there. It's called, you flip your lid, your prefrontal cortex goes offline, and now you're back in time. It's a complex PTSD response. So now, we haven't broken down those words for people, but so then it's like, how do you put that back online? And then giving yourself the things you need helps you come back into present time.
Exactly. Like telling yourself, oh, I accept your needs, right? Like giving yourself those 5 A's, literally in the moment, speaking to that part of you, whether you're visual, you might see a child. If you're feeling oriented, like I am, you have that feeling place in your body. Yeah. But I mean, it's very powerful. And I have my own inner child meditation. I know you have your own inner child processes. And so I'm so excited that we covered all these tools, because we've really given people a myriad of tools and resources today.
Absolutely. And you deserve it, and you're worth it. You're worth taking care of. Right? Exactly. Especially for women, we're taught to be other-centered to survive. And so you're not being selfish if you take care of yourself. Now, if you're doing it at the expense of children who need you in that moment, that's, we're not talking about that, but taking time out for yourself,
right, of course,
without neglecting the environment and giving what you need is so important. And then you're more present and have more to give to others as well, which is the beautiful thing about it.
Yes, exactly. That's so well said. And I know that you have, as I said in the beginning, 50 plus healing modalities that you integrate together, and which is very unique. And you create custom programs for people, and you do have stories of helping people transform these old patterns in even just one session. And so I do encourage people, if you listen to this and you're like, oh, I really want to get to the root cause, I'm happy to use these tools and tips in 2 days when I'm going to go see my parents or my family or whatever, and get me through the holiday season. And please type in the comments, whether you're watching the YouTube video or if you're listening to the audio, you can go to my website, coachvaleriegreen.com. It's going to be /podcast/Lottie, Lottie is where this is going to be hosted on my website. You can go there and leave a comment. If you're listening to this on Spotify or iTunes or another audio platform, or if you're listening to this on YouTube, you can leave a comment and let us know which of these tools and tips and techniques worked the best. What questions do you have for us about stress, be it holidays or otherwise, and how can we serve you best? And one of the ways that Lottie has generously offered to serve you is that she's offering everybody who's listening or watching this today a very generous gift of a free call with her. So Lottie, why don't you tell us more about that?
So the free consultation, so you can go to LottieCooper.com, LottieCooper.com. That's my name. It's a blind spot and negative belief call. So what we'll do in that call is we're going to have a conversation. I'm going to ask you a lot of very deep questions, and we're going to start pulling out of your unconscious your blind spots so we can expose them. So that's the first step in your healing journey of the deeper root cause. So you're going to get to see what is stealing some of your your energy, what's causing you pain from, let's say, not attracting your soulmate or attracting wealth in your life or keeping you stuck, we will expose those things in that call. So you'll start to have a blueprint of what you can do about it. And then if you like that call, I'll invite you to do like a 1-day intensive or work with me for 3 months, 6 months, or a year to go really deep for your transformation. So you will be a person you didn't even recognize, of your more authentic self, more highly intuitive, and accessing gifts and intuitive gifts you might not even recognize you have. And if you're like me, a full body empath, you'll be getting a whole toolkit in how to really learn to love your empathy, not think of it as a curse.
Right.
And so you can enjoy your sensitivity in the harshness of this world and be able to navigate it easier without taking on other people's energies. And it'll open up all your psychic abilities more, so you'll be able to help more people without getting drained. So that's what's available for you.
That's very well said, because I think that all of the tools that I've learned as an empath to stay centered within myself are so helpful. And that's not what I specialize in teaching. And so if you identify as being an empath and you want to learn how to enjoy being an empath and not feel so stressed out, then I encourage you to reach out to Lottie as well. And
thank you.
Yeah, so this has just been so fulfilling for me, because we've gone through such a myriad of tools, both with, mental, emotional, physical, spiritual, all of it. And so if I'm probably going to listen to this recording again and get, all the full list of tools to use for myself. And I encourage you to do that too. And of course, I will put the link to Lottie's website in the show notes and in the comments on YouTube, so you can go to her website and apply for that free call. And then, of course, as I said, feel free to leave a comment and let us know which of these tools was most helpful. What do you want to hear more about? And I just hope that everybody gets the opportunity to be able to stay centered and really feel alive and vibrant, which is the true spirit of the holidays, right? It's finding that light within the darkness. If you're in the Northern Hemisphere, then the days are getting shorter, and the holiday lights are going to be bright on the outside to remind us of that light that's within us, that has the power to, just like the sun isn't going away because it's getting darker, right? Like our latent creative powers, just because we can't see them doesn't mean that they're not there. They can awaken the same way that as the sun comes back, then the days will get longer, and your feeling of vitality can grow bigger as well if you really focus on doing this transformative work.
That was beautifully said, Valerie. And Valerie's amazing. So whoever, you can talk to and be with over the holidays also, that brings you love and joy, hugging yourself. I tell people to hug trees, nature. You might have a dog or a cat. We're here to love each other, right?
Exactly. And ourselves. And we're just here to give and receive love. I mean, I imagine if you're watching my podcast, it's soul shaking love. So I imagine that you agree that we're here to give and receive love is a big part of what we're here for. And so I hope that these tools and these attitudes and practices help you to really feel that love and that creative power within yourself to create the experience that you want, and that you enjoy all of the beauty and the magic that the holiday season has to offer in a way that feels magical instead of stressful.
Absolutely. Woohoo! Thank you, Valerie. This was an honor to share with you and your audience and everyone listening. Thank you for listening to both of us get to share our gifts. It's a pleasure and a privilege to be able to help people out of suffering when I've suffered and Valerie suffered. We're here because we love you, and we're helping you have less pain than we've had. And that's what, to uplift each other. And so thank you, and stay in touch. And I'm excited to give you your free gift to work with me and to have more tools and more healing. So love to all of you.
Love to all of you, and happy holidays and happy new year and beyond.